What happened, Tom, in Baltimore?
I have spoken to a number of people very familiar with the dynamics in that building, both during the season and over the past couple of days. First of all, I think that it would be naive to sit there and say that in a locker room of 70 high testosterone, high performing men, you're going to be 70 were in on John Harbaugh or 70 were out. There were probably differing opinions like there are in every single building. But my understanding has been there was a general frustration. It was not all directed at John Harbaugh. There was a general frustration of a season that seemed to go sideways from go.
Right.
Week 1, they've got that game won in Baltimore. They looked like world beaters. They're future Super Bowl champions. Derrick Henry fumbles the ball. That game goes sideways. All of a sudden, you're off to a 1-5 start. And everything after that, the emotional energy that went into trying to claw back from that weighed on people. There were times during the season that I was told Lamar Jackson, who had, I think, every lower body part plus his back by the end that was on the injury report. It was an ankle, it was a knee, it was a foot, it was his back. He was worn out. It got to the point, and obviously he missed some time during the season where there were times Lamar just felt like, I don't want to be out there. And that's not in any way to cast aspersions on Lamar, the competitor. It's more about he didn't feel like he could function at that level. There were injuries at every level of that team. And when you get to the end of it and you have that level of disappointment, where let's remember, we could easily be talking about the Ravens hosting a playoff game this week against the Texans if Tyler Loop, the hand-picked kicker that was, picked by John Harbaugh, former special teams coordinator, doesn't slice a field goal at Acrisure Stadium. That's the thin margin between John Harbaugh being in the playoffs and John Harbaugh right now being out of a job. This was not a team that quit. This was not a team that was completely done. Were there certain players that felt like change was needed? I'm sure there were. And I know that the team brass and Steve Bisciotti talked to some of those players, and I'm sure that they heard a variety of different opinions. But, frankly, I got a text from John Harbaugh yesterday, and one of the things that he said was this was actually one of his, I believe he said, most rewarding years, favorite years, because of the way that the team battled through adversity to give themselves a chance. You're 1-5. The statistics, the history of the NFL would say you're done. They did battle back, but there was always something that never felt like it was clicking through the course of the season. And a big piece of that was the two-time NFL MVP quarterback whose mobility, his playmaking ability, his elusiveness didn't look like the Lamar Jackson we've seen of old. That had a trickle-down effect on everything else. So Steve Bisciotti made that decision. It was shocking enough to people involved that John Harbaugh, as recently as that day, was talking to about his assistant coaches about what the future was going to hold for them. Staff members got called into a meeting with Eric DaCosta and the team president, Sashi Brown, in which they said, Steve made a change. We'll get back to you with more information. Everybody was taken aback. There was always a chance. We all talked about it, Rich. Could something happen with John Harbaugh? Usually, though, after 18 years in a franchise, these are the type of organizational decisions. We had conversations and parted ways. It was abundantly clear from the statement from Steve Bisciotti, the statement from John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh was fired after 18 years in Baltimore. You look back at the number, I believe 4 playoff wins since 2013 over a 13-year span. You understand some of that. They've been a very patient and consistent franchise. Steve Bisciotti's patience ran out, but it was with the overall program and the direction they were going. They felt like they needed a reboot, and that is going to be a highly coveted job in Baltimore.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Check us out every single day streaming live on Disney Plus and the ESPN app 12 to 3 Eastern.